Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EA Global Summit 2023. This is Nizam from the organizing team. I'm really excited to welcome you all to the 4th edition of the Global Summit. Thanks to you all for making this a continuing success. We have a fantastic lineup of prominent speakers who are experts in the Sparx EA community and are willing to share their experiences. The keynote session will be by Tom O'Reilly, the COO of Sparx Systems. This presentation will be a year in review for Sparx Systems. I think we can expect an overarching view of how things are progressing in the Sparx Systems ecosystem. Please note that we have tried to make this platform as collaborative as possible. Please connect in the Slack channel and discuss with the fellow participants and speakers. If you haven't received an invite from Slack or you have missed it, please join the Slack channel through the link provided in the chat. We encourage you to please ask questions. You can do in the Q&A window of the GoToWebinar, or you could directly key it in Slack as well. Our organizers will be able to ask from there as well. With that said, I'll hand it over to Tom O'Reilly, the COO of Sparx Systems, for this session. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks very much for that, Nizam. Good morning and afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the first time for the EA Global Summit 2023. First off, just a big thank you to everyone for taking the time out of their day to come and listen to us speak, to all the partners who are presenting, all the close friends, all of the customers who are presenting case studies. It's really great to see from Sparx headquarters perspective, such a vibrant community that we have around the world. And as it continues to grow and evolve, it really is cool to see. So from our perspective, who we are, I think I've used this slide about 700 times in presentations now, but it never changes. We're Sparx Systems. We produce Enterprise Architect and the related suite of tools. We were first released in the year 2000 as a case tool, but it has been a very, very massive 23 years since. These days, we have over 1 million effective paid users globally, which is a really nice feather in our cap as well. And what is the Enterprise Architect suite of tools? Well, they're used for designing and specifying complex systems, for tools for everyone within the organization to do what they need to do on a daily basis. So be it your systems engineers, your enterprise architects, your business analysts, your developers, your testers, your management team, your channel partners, etc. There are tools inside the Sparx Systems platform that allows them to get information out based on how the organization is running and where it's going in a way that's relevant for them. We have customers in pretty much any industry you can think of. You look around your home, you look around your car, your workshop, you look up into the sky, and pretty much everything has been touched by Enterprise Architect these days. Retail, banking, finance, utilities, it's pretty crazy. Anywhere where someone's doing custom built specific software engineering, or where they need to understand how complex their enterprise is and all the moving parts of it, and anything between, Enterprise Architect is there helping keeping things running. Sparx Systems is still a remote workforce, so we went into lockdowns like the rest of the world in February 2020, and we're still at home today. Still one guy in the office maintaining the IT systems, but for the rest of us, tools like Prolaborate and the ProCloud server have been vital for how we operate on a day-to-day basis. Really good as far as a work-life balance goes for all of us. And we found like a lot of people now don't even need to stay in the HQ area. They still can be effective, working thousands of kilometers away as if they were still local. So that's a really cool feature of that. So today I'm going to cover 3 to 4 different areas, I think. We're going to look at the Sparx suite of products and what's sort of come out since last time I spoke to you 12 months ago. We're going to do a check-in with our Sparx services and Sparx Systems partners around the world just to see what sort of trends they're seeing from the trenches. A preview of what we have coming at Sparx Systems, and also something that's probably with at immediate release, which is all the rage at the moment. So can't wait to dive into that. So in the last 12 months, the Sparx Systems products, we've released Enterprise Architect 6.1. I spoke about that last year, so I'll do a quick recap of what was in that. Prolaborate 5 has been released. ProCloud Server 5.1 has been released. We've also released the latest iterations of the MDG integration for Microsoft Office. So for Enterprise Architect 6.1, the main key features, I won't go in as detail as what I have done, but the main key features that have stood out from Enterprise Architect 16.1 were the chats and discussion search, the improved custom documents, the time-aware modeling support for the annotation elements, our SVG update, the preferences and application data storage, customized locations, and also the new model patterns that we included. So the chats and discussion search is probably something that saved my bacon a fair time in the last 3 years since working from home. It allows a search of the entire chat that I've had with any of my team members or any of the teams within the organization. We use chat on a day-to-day, hourly basis just to keep everyone on check, share model items, share artifacts, share images with each other, and really stay connected within the model from within our team. It gives the option to search specific time ranges of that chat. So if there's something that I spoke about to someone last week, I can go back and look for that one on specific keywords, or you can do it for the entire history. So how it saved my bacon a few times is 6 weeks ago, you might chat with either management or the developers about a particular feature that you need implemented. We think, okay, we'll put that on the back burner and come back to that. And then 6 weeks time, people's ideas might have changed about what was said back then. Now, if I just had a conversation in the office, unless I wrote that down on a piece of paper, which would have been a forceful habit to do, I wouldn't have any recollection except from my poor memory about what was said. But at least with the chat, we can go back and have a look at what was said, share the resources there. We might create a diagram at the time to do it. And we have that persistent history of the discussions and decisions that we've made in that time. So that's been pretty cool to come back. One feature that I find really interesting with the chat or really useful is the reply to feature. So you can do a close bracket, open bracket for the triangle brackets, I'm not sure what they're actually called, and select a chat at any time in the past, and that will actually reference that in your next chat. So it's almost like hitting reply on an email. So you can say, okay, well, we had this discussion 6 weeks ago, and this is what was said. I can bring that up to the top and say, okay, now this is where we're moving forward from here. And look, ideas might change, and we can discuss the new changes from there, but at least there's a history of what was discussed back then and there. We've improved the custom documents inside Enterprise Architect. So our custom documents sort of halfway between a handwritten document and a templated driven document. So traditionally, we've had very strong documentation templates where you can craft up how you'd like your document to look. And then every time you want that new document, you have to regenerate the whole document out, and it's in the exact same format every time. With custom documents, you can write your own heading and then drop an image in from the model. You can then write a slab of text and then drop a table of elements from the model, and really build up your document in a really bespoke way. The advantage of doing that is I can craft that document specifically for an individual or a team or a set of group of people, and it is them and theirs forever. Now, as the model updates, the content that I've dragged from the model into the document can easily be refreshed, and that document can stay valid over time as we move forward. So it's a nice little hybrid way that people have used to create specific documents for specific people. The time-aware modeling got a boost in Enterprise Architect 16.1. Excuse me. So the time-aware modeling allows you to take a diagram or model clone of various parts of what you had. So you might have a current state architecture represented as a diagram, or part of your architecture represented as a diagram. And you can say, well, now we plan to make changes to this. We're going to do maybe 1 or 2 different variants of how we want this to look in the future. So we can clone the diagram initially and then start cloning individual elements to bring them forward into, say, version 2. Now, as we change to version 2, we might change the element names, we might change the connectors, we might add attributes and operations, all on our, I guess, what effectively was our live production model. But because we've cloned them, we now have a representation of everything that hasn't changed in the version 2 diagram, but also a view of everything that has changed in version 2. If I was to use the diagram filters, I could say grey out all the version 1 things, so I still knew what I had to work on. However, all my changes for version 2 are not impacting the original diagram of version 1, but that's where lineage comes from. Now with 16.1, we added the ability to not just do the elements of your diagram, but also the annotation nodes as well. So things that are non-model specific, so stuff like notes and hyperlinks and diagram links, boundaries, etc., etc. So things that pretty up your diagram and give it some context, they've all now been improved with 16.1. For the SVG support, we had the ability to save out your diagrams in SVG format to include in reports and attach to documents and send in emails. Useful for web-based things as well. So it's a vector-based format for better scaling and fidelity of those diagrams that come out of your model. There are still plans potentially in future to support that to a greater level, but I might touch on that later on. In 16.1, we also had to do some changes to find a new way of storing your settings, so things like your app data and your registry settings. There was a big push last year and continues this year for the EA SaaS product, so the ability to use your Enterprise Architect desktop application, but delivered through a web browser. Now that has been extremely popular in all parts of the world. But one of the things we need to do is be able to make that environment persistent. And we did that using these new ways to store settings. Some of the offsets or key benefits of that was you could also run an environment between your laptop and your PC and keep that setting information on a common drive or a common location somewhere. So when you updated one, your other machine was also running that same variant and same look and feel. So moving on from Enterprise Architect, in the last 12 months, we've also released Prolaborate 5. Now you would have seen a couple of email alerts come out over the last couple of months to do with Prolaborate 5. Prolaborate 5 was very heavily focused on the enterprise architecture and enterprise architecture management and application portfolio management disciplines, I guess you could call it. So with Prolaborate 5, we included a new lifecycle roadmap and ways to configure that, a card widget that can be added to your dashboards, dynamic charts, list views, role-based dashboards, and other enterprise architecture enhancements to go along with that one. So Prolaborate is the Sparx Systems web-based viewer for non-model specific information. So when you're trying to glean curated views or glean information out of your model that isn't particularly a particular EA diagram, then Prolaborate allows you to take the model information, curate it in a way specific for non-modeling users, and display just the salient information that those people need. So it might be things like managers and CEOs and high-level executives don't particularly want to go through your entire model to find the information they're after. They just want to be presented with what they need in a timely manner. But also people downstream as well who need to consume processes or read just a very small snippet of the entire model or entire organization approach. They can have their own view as well. So the roadmap diagrams, really pretty way of showing the status of architectural artifacts. They provide a really concise overview of a project lifecycle or an application. They're driven by tag values, so you have configuration options to include color, a date range. You can filter the dataset information before showing it out. You have the options to show and hide the legend, there's depth, where it's positioned, the ability to add milestones to those roadmaps as well. So for all those who are using Prolaborate, I really encourage you to take a look at Prolaborate 5 and take a look at those roadmap diagrams. The next one, and probably my favorite addition to Prolaborate, is the introduction of card widgets. So card widgets almost remind me of the Windows OS operating system that had, where you had nice big squares of information that are easy to read, information that you can customize directly out of the model, tailored specifically for me. So it highlights that business information quickly. You can get that information pretty quick and pretty fast. And the specific things you can do include cost and risk, lifestyle, and text. The different cards specifically really fall into 4 main categories. So there's a counting option. So if you need to count how many applications are doing a specific thing, or need to count how many processes are running on a particular area, they have the option to, the second card is summing. So if you need to look at things like total cost of ownership, you can sum up the ownership values of each your application portfolio and display that. You have the option to do percentages. So looking at things like budget spent, time through a project. In this case, it's sunset applications. And finally, you have the option of displaying text. So you can show things like statuses, you can show taxonomy, you can show different names. So they're really great for business folk to process and consume large amounts of information from the model really, really quickly. And as I said, quite powerful when combined with Prolaborate's curated views and dashboards. Dynamic charts. So dynamic charts in Prolaborate are a way of defining, okay, in this part of my dashboard, we want to show a pie chart. But what we want to do is change the information that comes into that on a need basis. So we can set a particular chart type, whether it be a pie chart or a donut or a bar or a column or a landscape chart. All those are available, and then fill out with different information from the tag value selector. So in this case here, we might have a pie chart that has the application type view, and it gives us the information that we need. We can then change that to, say, audience type. So select audience type, and then our pie chart stays in situation and gives us the new information that we need. Obviously, things like colors and the legend and all that is fully customizable as well. So you can match that to your corporate profile and corporate messaging. And here's another example where we've done it with a landscape chart. So perfect for slicing and dicing your application portfolios. So in this case, we've got it set as a lifecycle view, and then we can swap that to the data classification. And that sort of gives us the same view of each of those ones, and then changes the color based on the information we want to glean out of that. For those who haven't seen the landscape charts before, really cool for things like application portfolios where you can close individual sections. You can open them up and customize them in a way that gives you nice, clean display of many vector information in Prolaborate. So list view option is also something that's been added to Prolaborate in the last 12 months, and it gives you an easy view to update and view model information in an Excel-like interface, or so to speak. So you can view and update your applications, you can manage your data entries, modify requirements and use cases, and things like that. It speaks for itself. A very, very handy feature for seeing that information in a holistic way. But finally, bringing all that information together is the ability to now do role-based dashboards. So customizing dashboards for specific roles or specific teams. Previously, we've had the ability to do it for individuals and things like that. Now we can expand that out to the role and team-based view, where your marketing team might get one set of information, your IT department might get another set of information, your executives might get a third set of information, and only seeing the information that they like to see in a way that they like to see it, which is very cool to play around with. In the last 18 months, the MDG integration for Microsoft Office has been given a lot of love. So the MDG integration for Office is a seamless integration between Microsoft Office and Enterprise Architect. So it encompasses Word, Excel, Visio, and PowerPoint. Allows you to import models from Excel and Word documents. So we find it's a really good way of people to start building out their architectures. So they might have a whole raft of Word documents that are sitting in a network shared drive somewhere there that forms the information for their business. But unfortunately, there's no real easy way to get that information into Enterprise Architect. So traditionally, you might be able to store the entire document inside EA, which is, it's a valid thing to do. But it'd be really nice to get in there and get access to the paragraph level or the title level of those things. It might be a requirement specification that you'd like to link directly to those requirements. So with the MDG integration for Office, you can build a customized template for the document you've already got, and then import that into Enterprise Architect in a way that suits you. So you can import element hierarchies, you can import connectors, tag values, etc., as long as the data's there and formed in a correct way. And that sort of allows you to jumpstart creating your enterprise model inside Enterprise Architect without having to either retype in a lot of information or starting from scratch and reinventing the wheel. For those who are a bit further along and have come from a Visio world where they realize that visual diagrams are actually a good thing, then we can take that one step further from a file-based approach to a repository-based approach and import that directly into Enterprise Architect from Visio. For presentations like this, you can connect and export your diagrams to PowerPoint. So if I have a presentation where I need to get 5 or 6 salient images or whatnot out of the diagram, then I can connect my PowerPoint presentation directly to Enterprise Architect and get the very latest information from the model at my time of presentation. So really good for monthly updates and weekly updates where PowerPoint is the only way you have to present. And yeah, it comes free with Enterprise Architect Ultimate. So for all those out there who think this could sound interesting and you already have an Ultimate Edition of Enterprise Architect, then you can get up and running straight away without any extra cost. So what's new for the MDG integration for Microsoft Office? Well, the first thing, and it was a necessity one, was the 64-bit compatibility to work with EA 16. So obviously we introduced EA 64-bit that required a change for all add-ins around the world to support that, and we were no exception. So we had to release a new version of the MDG integration for Office. We continued development from that perspective and developed in a SysML requirements manager, which is an Excel-based function. So it's designed to handle SysML requirements in Enterprise Architect and in Excel. So you can update requirements and relationships from Excel into Enterprise Architect, and vice versa. You can refresh the requirements and relationships from Enterprise Architect into Excel. So this gives those who are managing SysML requirements inside Excel the ability to continue to use that as their source of truth, but also make those requirements so much more powerful when it comes into Enterprise Architect. There we go. And you also have the option to open Excel system requirements from Enterprise Architect as well. Almost got at that point. We've also included a BPMN visualizer, so a BPMN specific importer for Visio files. So we can now import VSD and VSDX files, so the latest iterations of the Visio file format. And we give you the option to map Visio shapes to BPMN2 elements. And you can define that mapping if you wish. So if you have a bunch of diagrams inside Visio with your boxes and lines, you can tell MDG integration for Office what they are and how they should be represented inside Enterprise Architect. And it will pull them into EA, import all the shape relationships and properties for all those Visio diagrams into Enterprise Architect so you continue your work. So as I was saying before, Visio is a really good start for those who are getting into representing their information via a picture, and then Enterprise Architect can take over from there once you've reached the limitations of that. So that sort of ends the 16.1 section of my presentation. This next part, I actually wrote out to all the sister and service companies around the world. So in the UK, North America, Argentina, Spain, Central Europe, Middle East, India, Japan, and Australia, to say, hey, look, what's gone on in the last 12 months? You know, what do you see is changing? What have you had to do as an organization to meet the requirements of what the industry is doing? And this is basically their letters. So Takeshi and his team from Sparx Systems Japan have said that model-based systems engineering and SysML are still the main objective for people using Enterprise Architect. He said there's a lot of new users interested in MBSE and SysML, and they are choosing Enterprise Architect as their tool to do that. In response to that, Takeshi has created a vast YouTube channel related to sorry, I keep pausing there. I'm a little bit crook at the moment, so I have to keep coughing. So hopefully I get my mute button in time. So he creates a vast YouTube channel related to those SysML resources, including videos on traceability, threat modeling, cybersecurity, all within that systems engineering environment. He runs monthly seminars to teach the basics to all those who wish. And while doing that, he's also working very heavily within the automotive industry in Japan, including their equipment suppliers, but also medical and healthcare and heavy industries as well are the main industries he's seeing adopting Enterprise Architect. So they specifically offer Japanese specific notations. So USDM, so the Universal Specification Describing Manner, and also the process flow diagram. So Takeshi will be speaking on that process flow diagram coming up, when's that, tonight, later on tonight, or later on this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. So if that's something of interest, then please join Takeshi for that. So Fernando and his team in Sparx Systems Argentina, saying he sees a heavy use of EA as a CMDB to manage IT assets, impact on business processes, and things like that. And that's probably really unique from our perspective, from my perspective, I guess. We do know that EA is used as a configuration management tool, but to have that as the primary focus for a nation, I think that's really cool. So because of that, there's a government mandate in the region to maintain business architectures for government agencies. And to do that, there's been increased use of Enterprise Architect in the area as well. He sees the modeling of complex engineering systems in satellite, aerospace, and navigation software, primarily using SysML. And also to Kanban uses on the rise due to agile approaches, agile development, things like that, using EA as their tool to record that information. And also using ChatGPT to write EA scripts, which I find quite interesting. So Peter and his team in Sparx Systems Central Europe, Enterprise Architect Management at the CXO level for visualizations, he reckons is key, is very important. And that's where tools like Prolaborate come in to satisfy that sort of perspective. Data architecture has had a revival in the finance and governance sectors, which is interesting as well. We sort of noticed that in the last 18 months, that data architecture has become a really big deal. So that's something that we're looking at HQ as well. Data mesh philosophy, demand for multi-cloud strategy modeling. So using multiple clouds in your organization, how do you model that scenario where you have distinct clouds that are all used in one organization? So EA has been helpful there. Again, MBSE challenges, how new engineers come to understand the modeling benefits. So how do we get across to, or how is he getting across to the new engineers that modeling is important for systems engineering? And finally, which has always been popular in his region, embedded projects. So using MATLAB, TinyML, machine learning with Enterprise Architect. Between him and the team at Liebelieber, they do some pretty cool things with embedded systems and EA. So Peter will be presenting on data is the new gold, but without modeling, you are lost. So looking at using AI tools to get data to information, into knowledge, into wisdom. So it looks like for me, that's going to be early morning tomorrow morning, but only a few hours from now. So it should be interesting. So Gillian and her team in the United Kingdom have seen a huge demand for EA services since COVID has, I don't know whether it's gone or whether it's COVID normal or we've all just learned to live with it. Again, SysML, her courses have been a bestseller. So SysML globally seems to be something that's a common thread through everything there. But also traditionally, she's been very strong in her Archimate training and BFN training as well, and that remains popular. Her main sectors are defense, but also in travel, government, power, utilities, health, financial, etc. And has developed a whole bunch of webinars on EA fundamentals, documentation, scripting, and MGG technologies that still remain popular today. There's been increased popularity of Prolaborate, as well as the EA SaaS platform. So Gillian will be speaking on Enterprise Architect and Archimate for large-scale enterprise architecture, and that will be coming not too far away, quite soon this morning. So in Sparx Systems India and the Middle East, lots of interest for organizations driving their digital transformation. So trying to figure out their enterprise architecture, trying to understand their systems from a holistic view, specifically in the finance and financial services, government, engineering, and project management areas. Their long and short-term support services are growing in popularity in oil and mining, government banking. So those who are seeking a little bit of a helping hand as their modeling efforts go on, Julie and Nizar and their teams there are there to help. And because of their very close interests and popularity in the cloud services department, they're also running the SOC 2 and ISO 27001 compliant for services of the architecture platform. So Enterprise Architect, Pro Cloud Server, Prolaborate, and EA SaaS for their hosting offerings. So they're quite up to speed with the international security standards there. So Nizam will be presenting on something that I saw, what was it, last week, I think, or a week before ago, where he has an application portfolio management suite, like an accelerator to get up and running. So for all those who are wondering how to start with their application portfolio management, I think Nizam has a pretty cool answer there for you. Sparx Services Australia, again, SysML in the rail, transport and rail industry, very, very popular. Lots of interest in point of sale architecture in retail, obviously. Application portfolio management, again, has reared its head, this time in the government also looking at meta models, profiles, and technologies from that perspective. So Stephen's had to do a lot of tailored mentor and training, so really getting to the roots of different organizations and helping them along in situ to get their projects up and underway. So he has ongoing mentoring to help people develop their models, also help to write profiles and scripts and things like that. So very, very capable. And tomorrow morning, my time, he'll be presenting on creating beautiful business-friendly diagrams inside Enterprise Architect. Across to North America now, again, SysML and MBSE, very high interest, again in rail. So it seems like the rail industry globally is starting to have a bit of a renaissance, or at least coming to terms with the sort of technologies that are out there to help them. Department of Defense, obviously really big in the US, and the automotive sectors as well. From an enterprise architecture perspective, a lot of logistics, telecommunications, finance, and government organizations are still looking into enterprise architecture from that perspective. But also integrations in with Jira and Confluence using the ProCloud server. And again, that would tie back to enterprise architecture as well, getting your requirements in there, getting your other bits and pieces of documentation from around the organization, collecting it in a way that's useful and scannable and has historical value, and then moving forward from there. They say Chris and his team have many, many migrations from Visio. So from that file-based repository to, the file-based environment to a repository-based environment, which is, again, a good stepping stone in that path. And lots of organizations moving to the EA SaaS fully hosted solutions. The advantage being obviously where in an environment where you need to take 6 weeks to procure a piece of software, another 6 weeks for your IT department to then deploy it onto your system. Might be longer than that. So 12 weeks have gone past and you still don't have access to your software. If you can then go to an organization and say, hey, we want this today, show us your security credentials, that happens. And by the afternoon, your environment's fully spun up and running at almost a fraction of the cost of what it would take for your team to do it. So I think that's why they're seeing a lot of EA SaaS adoption. So Chris is actually presenting a really interesting case study with featuring AT&T. When's that? Tomorrow morning, my time. So implementing enterprise architecture at AT&T Mexico. So if you want to see how EA is being used inside these large organizations, and I really suggest jumping on and taking a look at that. So now I have back to the technology, away from the partners and back to the technology. So I've actually got a preview for an up and coming release of Enterprise Architect 16.1. Now 16.1 has been out in the wild for 10 or 11 months now. And I'm assuming a lot of you would have preferred to see Enterprise Architect 17 stuff, but no, 16.1 is coming around again. So 16.1 is going to feature one significant change, and that is integration with your ChatGPT account. So it'll be lined up in two areas inside Enterprise Architect. The first within chats, the second is within discussions, and I guess the third, which is outside of Enterprise Architect, is within Prolaborate. And Nizam will be presenting on the Prolaborate view of that moving forward. So why two integrations? Well, chat is obviously a big and quick way of communicating within Enterprise Architect. I spoke before how it's been such a lifesaver for me. The way it has been integrated in with ChatGPT is a single question, single answer. So you ask it for a requirement. Hey ChatGPT, please give me a requirement. I can't think of how to describe this specific scenario. You can ask it how a process works. If I'm trying to model a process, hey ChatGPT, please quickly describe to me, what this process looks like within a hospital or something. something that I need to use a fair bit. Hey, ChatGPT, please rewrite this text so it's a bit clearer so people can understand it. Get rid of my spelling mistakes and get rid of the swear words. Hey, ChatGPT, please rewrite this piece of document because I'm lazy to add more detail to it, please. And then finally, when it's Friday afternoon, just tell me a joke to get me through, please. So just one-off situations where you just need a quick answer. So you're bouncing ideas off a co-worker effectively. They might have all knocked off for the day. You're still at home trying to get the final parts of the project done, and you just need a quick answer. So you can jump into chat and treat ChatGPT like a colleague. The second way we use it is in discussions. So discussions in Enterprise Architect are designed as a robust and structured way of communicating about a specific item until that discussion is done. So we've enabled the ability for ChatGPT to read your entire discussion and hold a persistent conversation. So you can see, you probably can't see, it's probably too small, but on the screen, I've actually asked ChatGPT to write me a sequence of events for a user using an ATM, but each iteration should be on a separate line and then list all the actors at the very start for me, please. Now, for those Enterprise Architect Power users, you can see I can probably take this 17-step thing, copy it, and then paste it into the structured scenario editor of Enterprise Architect as structured text. And from there, I can start generating out diagrams, sequence diagrams, test diagrams, etc., etc. So from a simple one line, I can start creating my models, getting them up and running, writing tests associated with that, simulating that information, and going from there. The advantage of being in discussion is, well, actually, what other actors ChatGPT might be involved if we were to expand the scenario? And then they could give me a whole bunch more from that. Also, too, with discussions is they're public. So if me and the team, or the team and I, are working on a specific requirement or a specific diagram, we can come into the discussion here with ChatGPT enabled, and we can choose what questions to ask ChatGPT. But the second we do, ChatGPT will get the entire context of this entire discussion that we're working on, so it can make in hashtags an informed answer based on that sort of information. So the two ways that ChatGPT can be used inside EA. So you can use it to find the right expressive tone and approach to better communicate your ideas. You can use it to explore different use cases, procedural approaches to problem solving, to search and learn, use it like Google, to look at ideas and problems from a different angle, and also act as a co-worker to potentially bounce ideas off it. So what else is possible? So inside Enterprise Architect, there's many different ways you can get information inside the model. So the example I gave before, where you can create a structured scenario from a process, import as a line that's meant to be delimited text, not delivered, to create models and tests. You can use it to create well-formed base for a requirement document. You can import that with the MDG integration for Office. You can use it to translate your notes into a different language for multilingual models. So the Canadians have a legal requirement that all models have to be in French and in English. So you can do that easily with ChatGPT. Rewrite poorly written text again. Summarize longer text. Generate scripts, which can be problematic, but I understand people have done it. You can get to help with writing your scripts. So it does have some idea of coding. Yeah, you can give that a go. You can also use it for text analysis. So if you have a big slab of text and you need to gain information out of it, business rules out of it, you can ask it to say, what are all the nouns in this slab of text? That becomes your actors. And what are all the verbs in this text? Well, that could be your connectors or usage items. So just ways that you can get extra information out of your model that you may not be able to do without it. What are the possible caveats? I spent a week playing around with things to do with ChatGPT, and I found that it can actually lie to you. ChatGPT is a script you've written me that well-formed for Enterprise Architect JavaScript. Yes, Tom, yes, it absolutely is. No, it wasn't. Oh, sorry, Tom. This is the correct one. No, it wasn't that either. It still has the outdated information, not connected to the internet yet, so be wary of that. It can make stuff up. It can lie to you, but I'll just say trial and error is the way to go here. Play around with it until you get something that's right. You could unknowingly plagiarize others' work. So if you're taking a set of requirements or a use case or something, just double check that you're not borrowing someone else's work mistakenly. It can happen. And finally, suggest not connecting something like ChatGPT to your corporate model. So even though we have ChatGPT inside chats and discussions inside Enterprise Architect, it has zero communication with my corporate information. We don't want our company secrets through our enterprise model being just leaked to the internet because someone decided to say, hey, please analyze these 5 requirements and tell me, which is the most important. It's just be wary of things like that, and that's what we haven't done in the inside Enterprise Architect. Want to keep your intellectual property safe. But more on other experts on that. Both Peter and Nizam are speaking on AI buddies for your collaboration work and information there. So just checking those out for probably a better description on what are the possibilities with this sort of technology. So when is it available? Well, it should be out this week. Trademark. So it should potentially be out this week. So you should be able to start playing with it later this week. I've said it now publicly, so we'll endeavor to get that done. I wasn't going to do a preview of version 17, but I'll give you a quick overview of what's coming, just because there is some really cool stuff and some pretty major developments that are going into it. It's all subject to change. I think when I did the 16.1 one last year, the release was closer than what 17 is for us at the moment. So subject to change, but stuff that we're working on at HQ at the moment. First off, data warehousing support. So we're developing 2 aspects around data warehousing. One is technologies to help you define the structural architecture, business process security of data warehouses. And the second one is the import and export of DLL in some of the more popular languages. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to be able to import a range of data warehousing platforms. We're going to be able to export that as well, but also more importantly, we're going to be able to allow you to diagram them in the meantime. We're looking at targeting platforms like Snowflake, Amazon Redshift, Azure Synapse, Google BigQuery, Hadoop, and others. So that there are some that are in the work at the moment. But yes, data warehousing is probably going to be one of the big headlines that are coming in Enterprise Architect 17. We have redefined the differencing and merging engine inside Enterprise Architect. So traditionally, it was only XMI 1.1 you could do diff and merge on. With the introduction of QEA files, we've had to write our own differencing engine for that anyway to handle the names escape me, but we've had to do it for QEA files to be able to handle the differencing of replica files. I was thinking of that, as well as technology around a native diff merge as well. So the ability to diff merge on elements, on packages, diagram level differencing and merging, and a lot of features around that. So the ability to extend into time-aware modeling, for example, what I spoke about earlier. What are the differences between version 1 and version 2? Can I merge back to version 1? Can I merge down to version 3? And that sort of stuff. We have timelines, which are also a time-aware modeling feature. So allowing you to give you a snapshot of your diagram changes over time. So whether it's for the session, so for the day, I might have made 30 changes to my diagram today, and I can go back and have a look at each one of those changes and get a differencing between each of those to see how it's done. Useful for when teams are working on the same diagram at the same time. but also for yourself as well. When you've come so far, many hours down a diagram, where are we at? Where are we going? Where have we come from? Have we done the right thing? This is wrong. Need to go back 3 steps. Okay, here we are. Move forward from there. It can show how elements and connectors and packages change over time. It'll keep a daily snapshot history. So you might have 30 for the day, but they'll get lost at the end of the session, and it'll keep the last one for you at the end of the day. So over time, over days, over weeks, and over the months, you can see your diagrams change over time and how they evolve, and they're stored within the model for all time. So the diff and merge will be enabled for all of those snapshots. So whether it's the session changes or for the daily ones, and it will really help you finely tune the development trajectory of your modeling practices. Diagram layout. So we have a whole bunch of improvements to the alignment helpers within Enterprise Architect 17. So it just allows you to increase the speed and accuracy of building very nicely formatted and laid out, I guess, is the main goal for that one, diagrams. So probably more up to what you're accustomed to seeing from tools. So hopefully they're a win. Open the feedback on those two when it comes out in beta. Another really powerful feature, or a really powerful feature for version 17 that we have on the horizon, is the ability to do custom model-based perspectives and technologies. So a couple of releases ago, we introduced the model-based scripts, and they were really cool in that you could write a script and store it in the model, and then that script would live in that model for all time, but also meant that you could export it from the model, import it into another model, and have that script there. This takes on the same process where not only can you do it with scripts, but you can do it with perspectives and technologies in a visual manner as well. So from a diagram based. This allows you to create your own perspectives for your own organization based on security groups, if you'd like, for particular users, if you need to, without having to export that information out of EA. You just have it inside the model. You share it with them on their machine. They can then generate it back into the model, and their menus will be less now. They can only see diagrams associated with the development team or for the database engineering, etc. So that ability to customize Enterprise Architect in a very detailed way now becomes extremely easy and extremely easy to share. So that should be a bit of fun to play with too. Version 17 release date, I haven't the foggiest. To be announced, it is coming. We are working on it very hard. We have a lot of things to come for that one, so stay tuned. Who knows, at some point. So finally, I'd like to, again, just finish on a note from Jeffrey Sparx, the CEO of Sparx Systems. So his note covers over 3 slides, so that should almost bring me up to time. So he says, firstly, a big welcome to everyone participating in this year's Global Summit, both to presenters and to all those attending. This year's kicking off with yet another great lineup of events and sessions that demonstrate how modeling and design continues to fuel and underpin innovation and facilitate rapid adaptation to a continually changing world. As in years past, it's wonderful to see so many people and companies supporting the Sparx Systems Enterprise Architect platform, a remarkable global community and user base that touches on private, public, government, and not-for-profit projects and is supported by third-party tool vendors, trainers, consultants, and modeling evangelists. We all owe so much to the people and the teams that make this community so broad, so knowledgeable, and so successful. So please take the time to listen and watch and ask questions to explore some of the best information, experience, and advice available to modelers and designers during this year's Enterprise Architect Summit. And let me conclude with a final thank you to all the presenters who have taken time out of their schedules to make this event such a success, and to once again Nizam and the Sixth Force for their energy and vision and commitment to making this event a reality. Thank you all, from Jeff. And for me, thank you to everyone. If you're still listening, I really appreciate you hanging around and giving me the opportunity to present to you guys on from what I see, is all things from the Sparx ecosystem. So happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thanks heaps, Tom, for sharing an overarching picture. I think it's only you could provide such a picture. Thanks heaps for that. I would like to acknowledge the active participation and engagement from our audience as well. There was a really good number, and they were quite active. There was a lot of questions as well, and I would request people to continue the conversations in Slack as well. It's a little late for Tom in Australia, but he has kind of accepted to be available for a while to interact. So please continue the discussions in Slack. We'll also have our team who could assist with some of the questions or follow up with Tom later on to come back with a response for it. Thank you once again for the presentation and participation. There are a few questions. We have 2-3 minutes, but I'll ask a few, but we'll continue the conversation in Slack if that's okay. A question from Robert to you, Tom, is can ChatGPT be enabled or disabled if there is a company that has decided not to use AI? Is there a secure way so it's not enabled to users?
Yeah, get it, Robert. Really good question. We're probably in that boat at headquarters as well. The way ChatGPT operates is you provide an API key into the ProCloud server, effective communication for that. So it enables ChatGPT across all machines connected to it. If you didn't want it, you just take that API key out. There's a administrative level permissions required to do that. So yes, you can definitely turn it off, ban it, put it in the bin and throw it away if that's what your company requires.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And there is another interesting question from Takeshi. I think he's in the same time zone as you, but do you have any plan to support SysML 2.0 in version 17?
Takeshi. Yeah, no, look, we do, and it was something that I did miss on my presentation. We've been working on SysML 2.0 for probably the last 12 months now and kept really close with the OMG's development of that. Definitely well underway here at HQ and will be one of the headline features for version 17 as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. One more question. There was, before we close, a question from Bob. Is there any news on improvements to the Prolaborate? I think by Prolaborate is referring to the WebEA. Will there be features like presentation modes and layers and filters that are in EA? Will those be supported, or are there plans to support them?
Yeah, good question, Bob. We're actively developing WebEA to be in line with the enterprise architect experience. So any sort of information you can see within EA, there is a potential for it to end up in WebEA. I'm not sure of the specifics on what we've done with WebEA at the moment for the release, but definitely if it's something that you have asked for, then the team are aware of it and potentially could be in there.
Yep. Thanks, Tom. I think we're on top of the hour. Thanks heaps once again, and thanks everyone for joining. Please join us in the subsequent sessions as well. There are a lineup of interesting sessions by people from various parts of the world. They have put in significant effort to prepare something to share to you guys. So please do join and look forward to continue the conversations in the Slack as well. Thanks once again.
Thanks very much, Nizam. Appreciate it.